Industries are now evolving. The focus is shifting from degrees to skills, making job readiness more dynamic than ever. Today, we have an exceptional panel to discuss how we can bridge this gap and prepare the workforce for the corporate world. Please join me in welcoming our esteemed panelists for the final panel discussion of the day on the topic From Degrees to Skills Redefining Career Readiness for the Corporate World. For this panel, I would like to invite on stage Amritesh Raj, DGM-HR, DCM Shriram, Nitin Khindria, CHRO, Omega Seiki. I would urge everyone to please give them a big round of applause, all the speakers who are coming on the stage. Sandesha, Jaitapkar, CHRO, Artha Group. Gaurav Sharma, CHRO, Balancehero. Tarun Mehta, Director, Moglix. Saurabh Singhla, CHRO, Indiamart. And to moderate this session, I would like to invite on stage Emmanuel David, Independent Director and Executive Coach. Please give a big round of applause to all the panelists present here. Over to you, sir.
So good evening or good afternoon. We are the last panelists and we are a power-packed panel. And we have competition from the neighbors. So my friends, we've got to talk a little louder and make sense. We've got a pretty interesting subject from the movement from degrees to skills. And I have on stage people with a variety of experience, and they've been in different sectors and at different stages life cycle of the organization. So I think you're in for a lot of insights. So we thought we will examine this particular topic in different ways. I want to offer one or two comments. If you really look at what the World Economic Forum says about the top jobs, there's going to be a lot of emphasis on healthcare, and it's not because my bias being in that sector, but that's going to be true. We've seen it over the last 5 years. And particularly, one is healthcare, another is veterinarians. Then there are data analysts and scientists. And then you also need people who do primary and secondary teaching. And then we also have, in the panel, we need EV specialists. We can talk of the hard skills, but also each of you, when you are assessing people, you kind of look at the soft skills. And sometimes we find that the degrees do not necessarily equip people with the soft skills. So we're going to try and massage this topic and understand. Let me ask Saurabh, if you could just tell us, how has the growing emphasis on lifelong learning and micro-credentials changed corporate hiring strategies?
Thank you, Emmanuel. Good to see all of you here. Been a while, I've been back to Delhi now, so enjoying the Delhi forums. So look, and I just moved from upgrad, so I have some relevant examples to give in terms of how the education is completely getting transformed. And I remember when I was in school, my dad told me, definitely get degrees because in India, degrees work. Now, when I was talking to my son, I said, listen, degrees are just the start point, but they're not going to be the end point. The end point is actually about your skills and competence. And I truly believe that the way the whole hiring paradigm is changing, one, it is all about the fact that the specific target now is not about a Bachelor of Engineering or an MBA, but somebody, let's say you want to hire a program manager, you're going to say, listen, I need somebody who would have done a certification in project management or a program management. And there also now specializations are coming in terms of these skills, where you can talk about some of the sector specific skills as well. That's one. Two, I would say there's a lot of adaptability and agility that we kind of looking at in people. And so if somebody is continuously emerging and learning new skills, we look at that person as somebody who's agile and adaptable. And that kind of really gives brownie points to those candidates in the whole process. And lastly, I was just reading some data from World Economic Forum, and this was given a couple of years back, that almost 50% of the people across the world would need upskilling in the year 2025. Well, that's the year we're all sitting in. So, if you see the edtech companies who receive the maximum funding in this country in the COVID times, is all because they could see that there are things coming up. At Indiamart, when we look at our candidates, we always look at the competence. We always look at people who've worked on micro skills and who can be adaptable to kind of not just come into what's relevant today, because the future is changing and there's enough FOMO on AI and all the tech tools which are there. So I believe uh, there's a different way of looking at micro learning and micro credentials, which is beyond degrees, but the skills are getting more and more relevant.
Thank you so much. Let's look to Gaurav. Do you have a different view, or especially coming from your perspective and you're part of startups as well? How do you see the same situation on?
Am I audible?
Yeah,
Okay,
you are now. Yeah.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Actually, I have my experience ranges from automobile to pharmaceutical to the consumer electronics, and now with the startup. Uh, when we are now talking about the skill based hiring and stuff, so I was just having a discussion with my co-panelist Nitin also. The basic fundamental or the foundation which he also emphasized has to be there. All this skill based learning and all is fine, but then you will not teach the individuals who are just coming with the skill certificate, right? You need to have that basic foundation. So yes, above that basic foundation, if there's a topping of skills, yes, definitely it helps in actually get the ball rolling from the day one. So I was just reading, as my co-panelists also pointed out, to the World Economic Forum survey. They just published a report on 6th of January 2025 on the future of jobs, right? Which says that around 160 million jobs by around 2030 will become obsolete. That means that they will not no more be required in the industry. Is that a gloomy picture? No, actually it is not, because it also says that around at the same time around 170 new job or new skill set requirement would be there. So the future is bright. Only thing is that if the foundation is strong and if you keep on topping it up, like the same report also says that around 19% of the global companies will be looking forward to the skill based hiring, and in Indian context, it becomes 30%. But does that mean that the basic qualifications take a backseat? No, it does not, because obviously it has to be topped up. Right. So that's it from my side.
Thanks. Thank you both. What I would like to just surmise is that while skills enable you to handle things on the here and now, especially in the face of obsolescence and also changing customer demands, but things like degrees actually enable you the framework, and that framework will enable you to anticipate what can happen in future. I think that's how we could look at that canvas. And let's get to Nitin. And what specific industries or roles are seeing the fastest adoption of skill-based hiring, and why? Well, Nitin, you also, before we got into the panel, you did have a spectrum of points. Maybe it'll be interesting for the audience to know one or two of your nuggets as well. Can we have a mic which works?
Hello.
Yeah. That.
Yeah, it's good. When you say which industry, every industry. So one short answer.
Pardon?
When you say which industry requires this skill-based hiring, so very, very specific answer is every industry.
Every industry.
Every function of every industry requires the skill-based, not only the hiring, but the working also.
Hmm.
So I may tell you that now in our new age companies, we want most of the things done in-house, right? So we have to have a digital marketing team, because now everybody would love to be on Instagram, on various different social networks also. So you need to have an content writers with you. You need to have an creative directors with you. You need to have an someone who is analyzing those kind of an lead which is coming to you. You need someone who can talk to those leads and try to convert it into the business. Not that business leads has to go to the financial team to talk about the channel and the trade finance. So everywhere, if you see, the integration happens within the organization, that kind of a skill set we require. So irrespective of industry, if you want to be in the market, you need to understand that what skill is required and is that skill is contributing to my P&L or not.
Yeah.
If that skill is not contributing in my P&L, then I need to reskill myself, need to hire the right kind of a skill set which can contribute to P&L. So either it's a aviation sector, hospitality sector, banking sector, EV sector, right? So that kind of an integration. And I may tell you, uh, I was talking to Gaurav. Gaurav is into the finance, right? I said, Gaurav, I'm not an HR guy, I'm a business guy. So I have an offer for him. I may tell you that what kind of a skill-based hiring. So I'm a skill-based guy. I said, why don't you talk to your business head? And if we get into this business, this will take your company, right, into the different league, and it will help my business to progress.
Mhm.
So that's the skill. If as an board member, I don't know that what kind of financial skills required for my organization. If I'm not able to pitch in, then having a skill or not having a skill, it's so that's the way you have to look into the how your skills can contribute to P&L. That's the most important thing I think
Yeah.
we need to look for.
I think Nitin has touched a very significant point, and I'll just paraphrase a little bit. I mean, are you adding value? And I go back about nearly 28 years ago, part of a startup of a European automobile multinational, and there, my mindset is degree, which pedigree and all that, which college. And here was my manufacturing manager. He says, Emmy, I like this guy. He knows about painting. I will take him. But I said, he's not from BTech. He said, I don't care. But I'm just talking of my own mindset. He was already thinking of skill based hiring. Where can value be added? But we are getting alive to it today because of the way processes have been mapped, and we are able to kind of say where value can be created or eroded. Uh, but somewhere people have understood this many years ago. I think we need to understand that and move away, and we'll examine it a little further. We have amongst us Sandesha. Sandesha, while handles part of HR, but she's part of private equity. Okay, and so several organizations, uh, right? And from that vantage point, what do you see are the common skill gaps seen in the organizations and also in fresh graduates that prevent them from being workforce ready or prevent them from creating value for you?
So thank you for having me here today. Good evening, everyone. So I think one of the feedbacks that we keep giving to all these campuses that reach out to us as well from time to time, for summer placements or full-time placements from the B schools, etc. I think one of the biggest pain point that I see today is, is the street smartness or the readiness to really handle situations on the ground, right? So I think they're far away because the curriculum just covers everything that is within the within the skill set requirement. I think we're sort of far away from what really happens in the real world. So I speak for myself right now. When we hire for a VC, for example, I think sort of even a junior or maybe a mid-management position coming in from a B school will not be ready to sort of have a conversation with a founder, for example, right? So if you're asking a founder as to what his business is about, what his pain points are about, how does he plan to scale, it's very important to go down to that level and really understand his mindset, right? And ask the right kind of questions. So I feel that is, and then along with that, obviously you're helping the company scale, right? Which means you're shadowing the founder every single day with the kind of skill set they sort of currently are, that is involved in the curriculum. That's not something that is taught. And I feel like it's very important for the campuses to really have some of these industry leaders, you manage some of these lectures for them, or maybe the summer programs sort of are a little bit more longer for them to understand what really happens on the ground. Because when they're freshers or when they're just out of college, they apply to jobs like, for example, someone like us who's a venture capital, or even a firm that we funded. They're struggling with what really happens in the real life, because they just got sort of a massive exposure to what you call a funding, or how do these rounds happen, what are the kind of reports that an investor would ask. The investor might just call you up at any random hour and ask you for a KRA that was not met, right? And those things require for you to be on the feet and understand what happens on the ground. So I think that is one of the major gaps that I see when I'm hiring for for the organization that I work for, which is the VC. But at the same time, because we enter very early into the business, we also access pretty much the entire company, right? Which means we're also helping our founders hire. And this is a common problem that I see even with startups that are scaling, that have gone to a Series A, Series B round of funding. When they're hiring from B schools as well, they're struggling with this sort of on-ground approach.
Okay. Tarun, do you also see this issue on people being workforce ready from campuses, fresh graduates?
So, see, I strongly believe that education institutes play a vital role in the growth and development of the nation. Right? Often you would have heard that, if you have to destroy a nation, you just kill the education system of that country, and you are done with it, right? So that's what the importance of education institutes are today in today's time. And and moreover, we all know the contribution that government of India is making in the education space, right, to become a Viksit Bharat by 2047, right? So having said that, I think there are certain things that education institutes must do to stay relevant, right, to the ever evolving world. One, I would suggest, right, they should basically shift focus from degree based hiring, right, to skill based hiring. So when I say this, I mean that, for example, you are hiring for your own university. If I have to hire an admission counselor, can I give that exposure to my HR student? Hire me one. They know what is job description, but have they worked on it? Have they worked on Naukri portal before? So talking about practical exposure, right? Then focused, more focus on soft skills and industry readiness is also important in today's context.
I think that is an important point. And you touched upon Viksit Bharat. How many of us know of the National Apprenticeship Scheme? There is a scheme which is possible, and thanks, one or two. The government is willing to pay something like 10,000 rupees. Amritesh? Yeah, come right in. Yeah. Would you like some water? We'll come to you. Just
Emmanuel, I just wanted to add here.
just finish my point. So that is an opportunity for each of us in the audience to embrace that and give an opportunity. And it's kind of government is funding you on that, and people become, I think, career ready, because it depends on, once they come into your organization, it depends how you handle it. Yeah.
So actually, skill based, working with a startup, what we have realized that a particular skill may be required for a project or for a short duration, we do not end up hiring that individual. So earlier the route was that we go to the big fours or the consultants where we spend up huge money, and now actually that is actually giving the fillip to the gig workers economy, right? There are a lot of people who are available with that skill set, who want to work on a project, who do not want to be employed as a full time employee. They come in handy at that time for us. So we skills are important, and it is now readily available also in the market. But the only issue is that right now, that as my co-panelist was pointing out, that education institutes need to improve. And I think if they are falling back, the individuals are taking the volunteering themselves by upskilling themselves in that area, and that's why the gig economy is the future. I think this will be the future.
No, I think that's the right point, and let's just kind of transition and ask Saurabh, especially from the edtech platforms, what role do you think they can play in making people career ready, and make it more accessible? Uh, because sometimes we find that it's very divided, urban, rural, again across income lines. So, what are your thoughts?
Uh, Very interesting one. And just to kind of share, just about 6 years back, there were just about 30% people in the tier 2, tier 3 cities which had an access to better education through the digital platforms. The number has gone up to about 55%, by the way. So that kind of answers a lot around how this whole thing is getting democratized in terms of the access. So one is democratizing the access. The second is, look, we don't want to get into a classroom to learn and get trained every time. And that's the Gen Z for us. And that's what we're all trying to kind of, as HR leaders, trying to solve for. They want education anytime, anywhere. So whether it's about a location, whether it's about an access on a laptop or a computer, which is a desktop or an iPad or a phone, they just need it anytime, anywhere. Three, yes, we understand the English may not be a language for everyone, like as easy. So the vernacular language is just increasing, like it's almost about 350% plus penetration, by the way, in the last 3 years or 4 years. And because I have a background of an edtech company, I understand that better, because we saw that the moment you make it vernacular, the amount of takers are going to be just increasing like a big number. With all of this, I think one more thing that's happening is that these edtech platforms which are there, and while the industry may be struggling right now a little bit for various reasons, but the uptick is huge. Almost about 60% plus working professionals today are looking at one or the other course which is going to add to that one micro learning to their portfolio. And they all know that the moment they do that, the chances are almost 30%, 35% higher that they get selected than the fellow candidate which is sitting there. So big role, I would say, but it's just a starting. I think the whole education system, and I'm not saying it has to be disrupted. It's almost like the blend of online and offline. We need the edtech platforms to kind of become more relevant, more sharper, because if they do, the accessibility to much better quality of education at a much cheaper price across the world in underdeveloped countries or developing countries or the areas is going to be really, really impactful. So I do believe probably it's just 10% of what the world needs. 90% is still pending.
Still there. And perhaps if we make a right pitch to Sandesha, we might get some funding as well. But I just want to digress a little bit. You spoke about English, and I would and you said vernacular. The moment you use vernacular, the uptake goes up. So English and communication skills. Would anyone like to kind of take there is a bit of bias towards more of English. I mean, we are conversing now in English. What's anyone would like to just have a go?
Recently, I experienced this thing, right? And for the one of the zone we were looking for on a sales guy.
Okay.
Now there are the two pitches which sales guy has to do. One, on the field and another one within the company, right? And to make dealers, you need to talk to their language, right? Business understand the business language, and you were able to convince someone else in the language where you are comfortable and the
Yeah.
another person is comfortable. But when you need to present it within the organization, then you need someone who can present, because you have to impress someone also, right? So business impression and impression to the business managers are the two different things. When you talked about skills also, skill required in the new generation, I think that's not an issue. Issue is when you are 5 years old and a 5 years old professional, 10 years old professional, 15 years, 25 years. Now these guys are hiring someone, either the lateral or the camper. We have enough skill to know that what kind of a skill we require.
Hmm.
I will give you some real example. Now we are into the electric vehicles. Electric vehicles comes with the different battery compositions. We come up with the different powertrains, right? So tell me in that how the one person can understand the different skill set. So that means your basics fundas has to be in place.
Yeah.
अगर किसी को ओम्स लॉ पता ही नहीं है तो वो वायर हार्नेसिंग को क्या समझेगा? Same if you talk about the continuous process, right? Why these kind of skills required? We need to understand this thing because your machine is getting automated. You have inbuilt PLC, you have inbuilt SCADA. Now SCADA has been coming from ABB or Siemens. Now both has a different technology and the propositions they are using. Right?
So what I hear you say is let the fundamentals be.
So that's the way.
There.
And then what kind of things you are looking for as an outcome?
Yeah.
So at the age of 40, if I don't know that what is required and what is going to be my future requirement, and requirements are dynamic nowadays. So that's the way you look into these things. So it's a continuous process as per me.
Thanks so much. Welcome, Amritesh, and thanks for navigating the traffic and being here. But you're just warming up to the whole thing. Just want to ask you, how effective are boot camps, apprenticeships, online certifications compared to traditional degrees? When I spoke about the apprenticeship scheme, I could hear some people in the audience shake their head. But I just want to hear your view on boot camps, apprenticeship, and online certificate. How are they compared to the traditional degrees?
Sure. First of all, thank you and apologies. I was stuck in traffic for a while. I think the topic is very pertinent, and I have had this debate multiple times in different forums and with different leaders. That is a boot camp more effective as compared to the traditional degree? I think where we get it wrong is that we pitch one against the other. Traditional degrees are more geared towards giving a holistic perspective and more of character building. That is where we definitely need the traditional mindset, traditional degrees to broaden horizon. All of it, when we talk about boot camp or online certifications, are geared towards a specific skill, which can of course help you in being more employed in your current role or in the role that you want to be in. But that is not geared towards helping anybody build a character or a overall larger perspective of life. Now, being a practicing L&D professional who has worked in different sectors and companies, I can tell you that in my career, when I would interview for some super niche skills, when I was hiring, say, security expert and people who were based in Israel, I would even not know what their traditional degrees would, say, equivalent degree in India. But I would know whether you know security architecture or not. Can you help my servers? At the time I was working in one of the largest PC manufacturers of the world, whether you will be able to keep my server safe or not. And how to do it is, I know the knowledge, or I know that you have XYZ certifications to do it. So of course, if I have to evaluate in a corporate setup, I would know if somebody has those certificates, boot camp, then the person is more interested to make a career here in this particular role. And of course, the person has a fair chance to perform in the interview. But I will still not discount traditional ways of learning and degrees, because that is for overall character building. And if I'm hiring somebody who could like grow with us in the organization, and of course, a larger skill set is required.
Thanks so much. I think you bring about a valuable distinction, and I'm not going to underscore the value of traditional learning. However, in things like boot camps, because you have a cohort and from the organization, you tend to learn together. And my whole approach has been wherever there's a shared experience, there's a shared learning. And when there's a shared learning, there's shared accountability. So that's the benefit, because people know where they stand with respect to others, and if the climate is good and there's a safe space, people will encourage each other to learn further. Okay, we're running out of time, but we have to cover some ground. Let's ask Sandesha, and see the person who has had these conversations with several companies. What metrics and KPIs should companies track to measure the effectiveness of skill-based hiring? And do you do that when you look at some of your companies in your
I
portfolio?
think, yeah, we do that also for our own, obviously, company, but we do encourage founders to do that as well from time to time, because I think it's very important to understand that hiring is just a very small problem to really look at, right? I think sustaining people afterwards is and ensuring that they're up to speed, that they're handholded into the job that they signed up for, is very important. So I'm just going to take like a few steps back and also talk a little bit about the interview procedures here, right? Because I've also spoken to a lot of these individuals who did not sign up for the job that they're actually doing, and what was being told to them before they took up an interview with an organization was completely different from what they are actually doing, right? So I think that sense of transparency while you're hiring people is so important, and that just doesn't involve the skill set requirement of the job, but also the cultural requirement of your organization. You might not be a very sort of a 9 to 6 friendly kind of an organization, so you have to inform that to the individual that is signing up for the job, which is a cultural requirement again, right? That it is okay to sort of have that kind of a demanding workspace, but then you inform that to the people. So then I think measuring KRAs post they are hired is obviously one, which involves, so I think one of the things that we started last year onwards is that there is this very interesting book I read last year, was called the 90-day plan.
Yeah.
It's something that now, as a part of our funding activity, we are handing that copy to every founder that we
Okay.
write a check for. But very, very interesting book that talks about how the first 90 day of an individual, when they sign up for the job that they took, and then they join you, right? And how is it that you plan that way before they actually start the role? So now at Artha, obviously we do that, but a lot of our founders have been practicing this as well, where they have very detailed measuring matrix. It's like the science that is running the human rather than the other way around, right? So it's like the process is running human. So which means you know what your first 10 days are going to look like. You get very detailed feedbacks on the first 10-day plan, and then you sort of move forward and talk about the rest. But only when you're ready to take up the 11th day is when you pass out that 10th day plan, right? So those detailed matrix from before they've joined your organization, or before they take up the plan for every single position, is so important, because I think we just rush into hiring people, and then just buddy them up with someone, and then one of the managers is always ready to get rid of some workload, so they are sort of just pushing everything away. But we're not understanding that in the longer run we're not preparing people to take up bigger roles in the organization, right? It's important that they and at Artha, what we follow is that every time you step up in your role, it's important that you prepare two people to take up your job before you step up in your role, right? Which means, because no one else can actually train them to do the job better than the person who's done it themselves. So HR has a very concrete way to sort of measure it, but we like to also involve our leadership team into measuring these metrics and ensuring that people are stepping up from time to time, right? And then there are very detailed reports that we pull out on how each of these roles are progressing. We keep going back to the drawing board, make corrective plans on how these metrics could be measured, and also if all the metrics really should be measured, or maybe some of those could be, and then the rest can be could be taken up in the next quarter or something. So I think making corrective plans and ensuring things, that we have a very tight, knit system inside before we really hire people is very important, because hiring just, right now in the Indian workforce, hiring does not seem to be a challenge to me at all. I think managing people, preparing them to do the job better and stepping up in bigger roles is something that is the key here.
Quite interesting. And especially coming from your vantage point where you've seen companies at different levels over your experience. And has this paid off? Has there been an impact? I'm getting a little more deeper. Has there been an impact in these organizations by the metrics you followed?
There has been. I think we see people, most importantly, I think people sustain in the roles that they signed up for, because
Okay.
they really know what they're doing. They see a growth plan. There is a sense of transparency in what their first 90 days look like, unlike sort of scenarios where there is incremental changes on the day 15th. We probably just decide, okay, this is not what we want to get you to do. Maybe just try something else. I think there's that sense of transparency and confidence in a candidate. You always like to sign up for roles that for people who really know what they're doing, right? So I think that comes from within, and we see a sense of confidence within the team. When they're running these plans, and not just people who are hired, but also managers who are running these plans with them, because they know that, okay, now this is, and most times within the first 90 days we know whether the employees completed the probation or whether they can really be, so we fast track some of these
Okay.
probations based on those matrix, because there are some areas that could be a non-negotiable for us, but there are some areas you can train people on, right? So those
So
matrix
what
give
I
you.
hear you say is, here's a 90-day plan. You're working on it diligently, and you're also seeing positive results, perhaps from the lens of a VC, because there is a greater accountability. But it's interesting takeaway for us. Nitin, would you like to add anything to this?
A very tough question, right? Uh, in my organization, actually, I have surrendered this KRA KPI sheets last year. You need to understand what are my business challenges are.
Hmm.
If I'm going to ask you that why you are not able to do so, now people come to you and you say that these are the things, 10 things which you need to provide me and support me, which is not there in this system. I may tell you that if fund has to come and that fund will never come to you after a month or month and month, then your whole cycle would get disturbed,
Yeah.
right? Now, one challenge is I can blame someone that that fund hasn't come. Another way is to look at that how you will ensure that FCCs is coming. Cash flows are important, but at the same point of time, your cash flows is not there. You are a beta negative, right? So I think these kind of terminologies one need to understand at a functional level also. What is my functional EBITDA? Is it positive? And rather than the EBITDA positive and negative, we should work on our EBITDA margins. And if we are doing that thing, then building on the KRAs, then it has makes sense. And the again I'm saying, I may tell you, uh, there are the 5 phases of the organization. Now your business is facing the challenge of scalability or sustainability. That you also need to see. You are
Fair point.
expanding or you are juggling with the number of products you have to launch. Right. So what kind of a market you are into? What are your target audience? What kind of future plans you have? That also you need to keep in your
Yeah.
mind. Then only you can decide on the KRA and KPI. So
Thanks, Nitin.
this I would love to add.
It's coming back with your theme of knowing the fundamentals, and then once you're aware of the fundamentals, then let it drill down into specific KPIs and KRAs. Okay, friends, what we've done is in the last couple of 35-40 minutes made a case that there is a need for skills, right? And I'd like to add one point before I request two of my colleagues to, add more value. I think it's not only the hard skills, but the soft skills. And the soft skills are like communication, creativity, curiosity is more a quality, collaboration, critical thinking, I would say, resilience. These are certain things. So, in this context of both hard skills, soft skills, and more a focus on skills which are relevant today, I'd like to ask Tarun and then maybe and then Amritesh, tell us how can educational institutions redesign their programs to align with this changing corporate focus, and perhaps APAC can take these insights from this panel and share it back with the educational institutions. Tarun,
So
over to you.
yeah, as I mentioned, there is a need to shift from degree-based focused learning to skill-based learning. When I say skills, right, giving the practical exposure to them. So for example, at Moglix, what we have done is last year we have introduced something called in our job description. Each interviewer has to rate the candidates on the basis of top 3 skills of the job. So what was we were struggling, right? When we go to line manager and ask why this person has been rejected, the answer is he will not fit the bill and flat. So what we have asked them is to rate them against top 3 skills, right? If the person is right in these skills, go ahead and hire. And plus, what we were struggling also is that one interviewer was interviewing on certain parameters and other was interviewing on other parameters. So by bridging, bringing skill-based interviewing, we solved this problem. Second thing, what I feel is, more focus on the skill-based, soft skills, which you talked about, solving skills, right? Along with other skills that you mentioned, should be more from education institutes. Third, we have also introduced something called STP, short-term projects at Moglix, where we have tied up with an institute, IMT Ghaziabad, wherein we bring in students from there. We assign them real-world business cases where they work on that, and they actually gain some practical exposure, which make them more employable in the market, right? Then I would also recommend institutes, right, to uplift their curriculum by taking feedback from the employers, from the alumni, whether the course curriculum is relevant or not, right, to the today's context, right? And lastly, I think more focus on lifelong learning encouraging lifelong learning for the alumni, giving them access to the portals like Upgrad, so that they have the access to the latest developments that are happening in the corporate world.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much. Amritesh?
uh, because Tarun has already covered about what companies can do, let me also give you some color of what we are doing in our company, and then probably what I have observed some institutes, including my institute, Tata Institute of Social Sciences, how they are inculcating skills. I will start with academic first. I'm member of few of the premium colleges in terms of designing their curriculum. So getting industry perspective initially really helps them, because then we are able to influence that what kind of courses, or even in courses what are, say, topics that is more relevant right now in the industry. So that is one. Again, there are colleges who gives flexibility to their students to go and work with institute. It is graded like in tests every semester. uh, all the students have to go and work with an organization for a month on any real life project. Now this is another good way to know that what are the various theories that they are learning is being implemented. And of course, there are other institutes as well who would encourage their employees to do live projects. In DCM Shriram, we do encourage all of it. Moreover, we also reach out to a lot of engineering colleges with some real life project challenges that we are facing, and we invite their students and faculties to come and co-create with us. So they come co-create or solve a problem with us, which in a way also give them expertise and a window to how corporate works. And it also, of course, a symbiotic relationship. We also get to see where the quality of talent is much more. I think another thing which I see a lot of industries are now say encourage, so a lot of colleges are now accepting is getting panel from the corporate to interview their candidates right before even admission. So you get to see that how much of, say, industry ready the person could be. And it is also a good sense where we are able to see the soft skills or the kind of behaviors, whether the right intent is being brought by their candidates. So these are some good steps that I see that institutes are taking, and there are a lot of colleges also which is encouraging this. Of course, there is a government initiative about Skill India, PMI's internship schemes, where graduates could come and work with the company, gain real life skills. At the same time, they make some living out of it. There are enough and more things, but I still think that if India has to be Viksit, then there is a lot of efforts that needs to be put in both by academia and industry to bridge that gap.
Thanks so much, Amritesh. Sugandh, do we have time for one audience question? Because we have, yeah. I'd like anyone from the audience to ask a question, then we will, that's the heat treatment. Anyone would, yes, sir. So, sir, what's the, yes, who needs it more? Okay, yeah. So who will go? Give the lady the chance? Or, yeah, that,
So
of course.
I think soft skills is one of the requirements also at management positions, because you're leading people, right? You're managing them. Which, so I think somehow we just confuse soft skills with a requirement to sort of face what is going outside of your company, or to face your customer, to your investor or your founder or whoever, who is that, who's the point of contact for you outside. But I think it's very important to also, it's required at all positions. It's not something that is a very entry level requirement only. You need them at management positions, at mid management positions, where people are responsible for different, and soft skills, of course, then can be, it totally depends on the roles as well that you're doing, right? So what we've done at our organization is also that we've sort of divided the workforce as, not everybody needs to know everything, right? Someone who's good at the skill set requirement of the job, it is okay to sort of let go for some roles the soft skill requirement of the job, right? So they're solo players, they sort of get their job done, they do what it takes, and then they can just it is okay to not have them at the front facing kind of roles. So this is a very organization to organization requirement, but at some point, if you're looking to build a team around you and manage them, it is not just an entry level requirement in my understanding.
It's a differentiator at entry levels, but it's required all over. And you need to look at newspapers. There are so many examples where things go wrong because of poor soft skills. Recently, there was a live telecast of a couple of world leaders. You saw that as well.
I'll just add to what Sandesha said. Sir, you need it at home as well. If you don't have the soft skills as a kid or as a father or as a brother or as a mother, you're actually gone. To me, what's a bigger thing that I'm looking at in the organizations nowadays is the last mile skills. How do you get the work done? How do you get the profitability in the pocket? How do you make sure the companies survive? The last mile skills actually have a combination of soft skills, technical skills, everything. That's the latest in thing nowadays that we're kind of tracking more.
Thanks for the question.
एक चीज ऐड कर देता हूँ इसमें थोड़ा सा सॉरी थोड़ा ना मेरे को लोग बोलते हैं डिप्लोमेटिक नहीं हो, थोड़ा डिप्लोमेटिकली बता। आजकल सबको स्पेस चाहिए, राइट? और हम है ना दरवाजा बाहर की तरफ खोलते हैं। स्पेस पुल इन करके भी हो सकता है। So that way of soft skill required, especially at the board level, I think. If we really want to grow with the values within the organization, as on a person or as an organization or as an industry, we need to create a space in rather than pushing the door outside.
I will just add one more perspective here. Most of the things have already been covered. Soft skill, I think it is the hardest skill to acquire. And if you talk about, say, current realities, where, say, conversational AI is picking up a lot of things and AI is going to grow robust and robust, at At the current instance, maybe at an entry level, it looks like that you can still go ahead with technical skills, but maybe in a decade or so or half a decade, as code, anybody would code. It would not require a hard skill to code. So on when say hard skill is outsourced to a machine, then how will we become human and differentiate that yes, we have a worth? And that is where soft skill will become even more prominent across the levels.
Thank you. Your good name, sir? Tarun. I think you asked a great question which provoked responses from almost all the panelists. Thank you so much for that. Right? Just want to say one or two words, but before I say one or two words in conclusion, can the esteemed panel take 30 seconds each person and one comment of yours on the topic?
Yeah, so I think one of the billion-dollar questions, that organizations look to answer today is that how do they stay relevant, right?
To stay relevant.
Yeah, so I think lifelong learning and upskilling have become the cheat codes for staying relevant. Today, no one wants to buy Nokia 3310, right? It is reliable but outdated, right? Employers expect employees to be like iPhone, right?
Thanks.
Updating every year, right? So that's one closing remark I want to. Yeah.
Hey, Saurabh, try to stick to the 30 seconds.
Yeah, absolutely. All I would say is that gone are the days when the disruption was happening in decades. It's now almost happening in quarters and in a year. So yeah, continuous improvement in skills and learning every day is all I would say is
Continuous
relevant.
improvement. Excellent.
So I think great panel, amazing conversation here. Just to sum it up, I think I'm just going to say that while we're obviously expecting a lot of educational bodies to bring in a change, I think it's very important that within organizations we run plans such, that we are evolving our own team every single day, with the changing world and the requirements of the changing world. So I think that is something that's very important, along with obviously what the education brings to the table.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Sandesha.
I think I need to own many skills, right? One, I learned it today that be skillable to be employable. Be skillable to be employable, right? I love to have a continuity of checks with me. So whatever way I can do that, so I will bring that thing.
I think the panel was unanimous that yes, skill requirements are there. Hard skills, obviously, there are a lot of sites, there are a lot of training programs that we impart to our employees. Soft skills definitely helps in shaping the culture of the organization. So whether we have that enabling culture, like my co-panelists were saying, that how can you get the things done? That is important when you ask that question. That is important. But then there are two ways of doing that same thing. You saw that video which was circulating around when he was pitching for the sales or pushing the employees for the sales. That video went viral. That was one way of doing the things. He was also getting the things done. But there's another way of getting the things. And so soft skills definitely help in shaping the culture. But then whether you have that enabling culture or not, that's the major takeaway for me.
Thanks so much, Gaurav.
I would just sum it up by saying that in the era of AI is even more important and upskill to stay relevant.
Thanks. That's succinctly put. I can only say that two organizations, one whom I've had a discussion with the CEOs, Tata Elxsi focuses on skill-based hiring. They do have high quality engineers also, but they also get some people in the design space who are absolutely skilled. And that's one interesting space. And then Google has started now focusing on skills. So things are changing. They said they removed the degree requirements for many roles. Instead, there are a lot of Google certifications which you can do. And that's how it is. And I would say, going with the theme, and I want to close, I think you're responsible for your employability. That's what I maintained since a couple of years with people. So you can't blame anyone. Earlier we said the company is not doing it, but I would say today you're responsible for employability. Each one of us, we have to stay relevant, and that is coming through skills. And I want to thank the panel. Brilliant insights, a lot of learning for me as well. I'm very happy, and I thank APAC for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Emmanuel sir, and all the speakers for a wonderful, engaging session, actually. And now I would like to call upon Rajneesh sir to felicitate all the speakers with a token of gratitude.
of time. It's okay.
It's fine. We can do a quick group picture.